Can we just have a moment for this shirt? Look at this. And my bump. Can you see my bump? But look at how good this shirt is. I have to like lean into the mic, but the fourth kind, oh my God, I love this. Not that it's relevant to this video because it's not found footage. There is found footage in it, but it doesn't count. But I had to give a shout out. This is my new favorite shirt in my whole collection easily. So today I'm going to be telling you about 15 found footage movies that you can stream right now, or some of them you can't stream, but you should still try to track them down and watch them. But these are just 15 recommendations, 15 found footage movies that hopefully you have not heard of before. And a lot of these I actually have never talked about on the channel either. So you haven't heard it from me before, which is probably rare in my 10 years of doing this. I have a confession to make to you all. Found footage is my favorite type of horror movie ever, period, ever. It is my favorite style of horror to be done. Like, I love all of them. And I'm probably a little bit biased, and there's probably going to be bad ones in this list today because my standards are so low when it comes to found footage movies. I don't care. I enjoy all of them. I will guarantee you will not have seen at least one of the 15 movies in this list today. So we already know the famous ones: Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity, Grave Encounters even. So this is a list of more found footage movies that I consider to be on the underrated side of things, maybe possibly even obscure. But anyways, now that I'm pregnant, I am definitely planning more and more for the future, especially my finances, which is why I want to give a very special thank you to Truebill for sponsoring today's video. Truebill is an all-in-one personal finance app that empowers their members to achieve all of their financial goals by helping you spend less and save more. Personally, I'm really cracking down on my finances for obvious reasons and trying to keep better track of where all of my money is going, and Truebill makes it really convenient to maintain my subscriptions, and if I want to cancel any of them, I could do it right in the app. Also, they negotiate lower bills for you, so if you just upload a photo of your bill, they will negotiate it for you, whether it is a phone bill, a cable bill, internet, anything like that. They will renegotiate for a lower rate. Right, and I have also been wanting to set up a formal budget plan, which is something we have not really done in the past, but obviously as we're preparing to bring a whole new human into the world, I think Truebill is going to really come in handy in creating personalized budgets. So to try out Truebill for yourself for free and to unlock even more features with premium, just go to truebill.com/possessed or click the link in the description down below. So the first found footage movie that I want to talk about first is one that I've talked about many times on the channel. I know I said there's a lot on here that I have not yet talked about, and that is a promise, but I had to start out with this one. If you've been around for a while, you know which one this is going to be. A very underrated foreign found footage film of Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. This Korean movie follows a group of live streamers who decide to stream their investigation into the Gonjiam Asylum. Of course, they encounter much more than they anticipated as they move deeper into the building. Personally, I think Gonjiam is the scariest found footage movie of all time. I'm gonna say it. It is definitely the scariest one that I have ever seen. This is in my top 4 on Letterboxd for a reason. It is in my top 30 movies of all time. It is just one of the best found footage movies I have ever seen. It does kind of do that thing with found footage movies where it's a little bit slower goings in the beginning. I feel like the first 30 minutes are just all build up, and a lot of it doesn't even have a lot of relevance to the actual horror of this movie. It does pick up about an hour in, and it just does not stop. It is so horrifying. You have to watch this in the right setting if you really, really want to be terrified. Obviously, this goes without saying, but this kind of horror isn't going to work for everyone. It's a personal opinion that this is the scariest found footage movie. If you're not into supernatural, this isn't going to be as scary to you, but please go watch this one. It is so well done. I love the creativity and the way that they filmed this, given that it's a found footage movie. I just think it's great. The next one I wanted to talk about in this video, because all of you have been recommending this movie to me, and it's not that it's underrated of a movie, it's just brand new, and I don't know if everyone really knows about it, and that is Incantation. This is the newest movie on this list easily. It just came out on Netflix this month. I watched it the day it came out, and I really, really enjoyed this movie. This Taiwanese horror movie follows Lee, who was cursed 6 years ago after breaking a religious taboo, and now she must protect her daughter from the consequences of her actions. I will be doing a more in-depth review in my monthly recap at the end of this month, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I had to include it because it is, of course, found footage, and it's brand new, so if you've yet to see it, I highly recommend it. I really loved the back and forth between the past and present in this. I think that created really great pacing pacing. The horror is throughout the movie, and it's not one of those movies where it's slow in the beginning. It is just throughout, sprinkled in there. It starts off so strong, and I absolutely love the story in this one. Some of the visuals in this were so creepy and genuinely scary, and there's a scene right at the beginning that really disturbed me. That I was like, I don't know if this is gonna get more intense, but this is kind of my limit. So it just was really disturbing to me. If you've seen the beginning, you probably know which scene I'm talking about, but it was very effective for me. Next up, we have Afflicted, which is a 2013 movie. Now this one I had to track down on Shudder using a VPN. So I used a VPN to access UK Shudder, and that's how I was able to watch it. I think it was on Netflix or Prime or something for a long time, and I wanted to watch it right when it was taken off. So I had to track it down that way. Best friends Derek and Cliff plan to travel the globe and live life to the fullest, but only days into the trip, one of them shows symptoms of a mysterious illness. They rush to find the source before he is consumed completely. Now I want to say what kind of movie this is, but I really think it's better if you don't know anything about this movie. I knew the concept and like the overall plot of this movie going in, and I don't think it took away from it at all, but if I could have chosen not to know that and have it kind of be revealed what type of movie this is, I would have preferred that. I personally really love the tension and the pacing in this one, and how it is a YouTuber kind of documenting his travels, because that is something that we know exists, especially in this era of like 2013. I feel like it was very popular at the time to vlog a lot, and I think it's a really good reason or explanation as to why you keep filming, because there's always that question like, why would you even film this to begin with? Why would you pick up the camera? Why are you still filming, you know, with dash cam, which is great too, by the way, watch dash cam. But I feel like with that one, it's like, why would they pick up the camera if their lives are at stake? You know what I mean? Like sometimes it just doesn't make sense, but it's a movie, so like you kind of have to go with it. This one kind of turns into that a little bit, but for the most part, it makes sense. I wish it was easier to find because it's a very unique found footage movie, and I can't believe it has taken me this long to watch it myself. Next up, we have The Conspiracy, which is great if you love conspiracy theories, as the title would suggest. Two young filmmakers select a crazed conspiracy theorist as a subject for their next project, but they soon come to believe that the man isn't as delusional as they originally thought. This one isn't that surprising. There's some like weird stuff going on, of course. I do like the concept of it exploring conspiracy theories and things like that. That makes it very, very entertaining and definitely keeps you wanting to watch more and more. Also, it's unique from other found footage movies, and especially unique from all the other found footage movies on this list, because there's really not another one that's like this one. Next up, we have The Tunnel. Good luck finding it anywhere. It's not streaming. I don't think you can buy it. Maybe you can hunt down a DVD of it. I'm trying to. But yeah, The Tunnel's hard to find, but I wanted to include it anyway, even though it's literally nowhere, because I really enjoy it and I think it's an underrated gem. A film crew learns of a government cover-up about the abandoned train tunnels beneath the heart of Sydney and decides to go inside to try to find the truth. Very quickly, the group begins to realize that perhaps the cover-up was for a good reason. This is a mockumentary style and kind of spoils itself with some of the interviews throughout, but that really doesn't take away from it for me. At first, I was like, why are we interviewing these people? It's kind of a spoiler, but you know, they did it it's in the beginning of the movie. But I like the style of this one. I really enjoy mockumentary found footage movies too. I find them very effective, and there's one on this list that was incredible that I absolutely love, and it's probably one of my new favorite found footage movies. This isn't one of them, but this one's really great as well. It kind of reminds me of As Above, So Below a little bit. If you're a fan of that one, this is like a lower budget sister of that one because they're in the tunnels and everything like that. Maybe even a little bit of Grave Encounters. This one kind of reminds me of both of those. So this movie was crowdfunded, so it was on a very, very small micro budget of $135,000. So it's basically made for nothing, which again, love a micro budget on a found footage movie. Something about it is just so approachable, humble. It's not pretentious in any way. I think that's why I love these kinds of movies. They're just like, art in a different way, if that makes any sense. I think they accomplished a lot in the tunnel with a very small budget and made it genuinely terrifying. Next up, we have Evidence. This follows Ryan, who makes a documentary on his friend Brett and his first time camping until a mysterious figure in the woods starts hunting them. Now, this is going to be the most annoying one on the list. Arguably, this is the worst one on the list that people will say is bad, but sometimes you just are in the mood for one of those cheesy, bad found footage movies. And this one hit the spot. Like, it was so good for that mood that I was in. I love the story in this one. The reason why I call it annoying is because of all the camera work and the camera effects going on, but the story is actually very surprising. You think it's gonna be Blair Witch, you know, because they're camping in the woods and there's like a creature, something following them, but it turns out to be so unique, so different, like very surprised at the last like 30 minutes of this movie. And it does start out as like your traditional found footage movie of friends getting together, going camping in the woods. There's some tension building going on there, and I love that. I love the setup of friends camping in the woods in a found footage movie. Classic. It could be in every single found footage movie. I would never get tired of that trope. Anyway, but it does take a turn, and I think the twist is absolutely worth it. But like I said, be prepared for the worst camera effects of camera glitching and cutting you have ever seen in a found footage movie. It does get so annoying in the end. Even I was annoyed, and I love these kind of movies. Just be prepared. Next up, we have The Bay, which is one that I have actually talked about on the channel before. I included it in my top water horror movies, which I will link up here. So somewhat recently, I have discussed this, but this is still underrated, and I have to talk about it again. Chaos breaks out in a small Maryland town after an ecological disaster occurs. Again, mockumentary style found footage. This one does it the best. The budget was $2 million. The Bay is a great summertime movie, 4th of July type movie. And if you want disgusting body horror, gross visuals, watch The Bay. It is disgusting. But I think the higher budget shows in this one. You have some good acting throughout this, even though the main character is a little bit annoying at times. The execution's really great though, with the visuals, the practical effects and everything in this. I really enjoy it. Next up, we have The Sacrament, which I have not talked about on the channel in a very, very long time, but this one is very reminiscent of the actual event of the People's Temple and Jim Jones. So if that is an event, a cult type situation that you've always been interested in, then you should watch The Sacrament. So this movie reveals the events surrounding an investigative team's visit to a remote commune led by a dangerous fanatic who maintains an iron grip on his followers. Now, this is actually written and directed by Ty West, which his most recent movie, of course, as we know, is X. So it's very different in tone to X. Obviously, they're long, you know, very far apart, almost a decade apart. So his style is kind of different in X, but I feel like he was going for that. He was going for something different. But I'm a big fan of Ty West. I've liked a lot of things that he's done, including The Sacrament. And if you're a fan of cults or you're interested in cults or anything like that, then highly, highly recommend The Sacrament. Next up, we have a found footage movie that is not going to be for everyone, but I am so glad I watched this one. I liked this one so much, and I'm worried to recommend it because not everyone's going to, but that is Willow Creek. A man and his girlfriend camp in the woods to capture firsthand evidence of Bigfoot. I didn't think a movie about Bigfoot would actually scare me like this one did. This one has a scene, I think it's 18 minutes long in one take, that is so tense and feels so real. It's worth watching the movie just for that scene. It is so scary, and I think it had to do with how I watched it. I watched it in the pitch black in my room on my phone. And something about that setting, and I was alone too, it was just a little horrifying. What made it even more realistic for me personally is this is actually filmed like 2 hours from where I live. So the setting is very familiar, like the woods and everything, very, very familiar to me. I don't think this movie gets good at all until about halfway. The beginning is very annoying. There's some very annoying like parts. The boyfriend is interviewing people of this town about Bigfoot, and these people are just kind of annoying. So I don't blame you if you want to skip a lot at the beginning. It really doesn't come into play that much. It's just setting up the location, I guess. This movie is, in fact, inspired by Blair Witch, so of course you're going to get a lot of Blair Witch vibes from this. I mean, it's a couple camping in the woods. Again, camping in the woods. there's always going to be some inspiration from Blair Witch in that. But this one is very almost derivative of Blair Witch, so you'll see that. Now again, this one's not going to be effective for everyone because of the subtle horror. This scene, so subtle. The horror is so subtle, and I honestly think that is my favorite type of horror, is subtle found footage like the Blair Witch Project, where you actually don't see anything, like where nothing happens. It's just the building of that psychological tension is what I am obsessed with when it comes to these movies. But something about this just felt so relatable. I could see myself as this couple, and being so close to home also is just, so many things worked for me with Willow Creek. Next up we have Lake Mungo, which is kind of a popular found footage movie, so I'm not going to say that you haven't seen this one, but if you haven't seen this one, it is pretty solid. Alice drowns while swimming and her family begins experiencing inexplicable events in their home. The family hires a parapsychologist whose investigation unveils Alice's secret double life and leads them all to Lake Mungo. I think unsettling would be the best description for this movie. I don't think it's super scary like everyone makes it out to be, which is probably ironic because Willow Creek scared me, and it's like, this one is obviously like more technically scary, like on a technical level, you see more and experience more, but something about the subtle horror of Willow Creek worked anyway. I think some would say even that Lake Mungo is the scariest on this list, and I do disagree because nothing will come close to Gonjiam. That one just traumatized me, and I wasn't completely blown away by Lake Mungo, but I wanted to include it because it is really good. I think I need to rewatch it to really get that horror and like appreciation for it, but it is a solid, creepy, very unsettling found footage movie. I think if you watch this in the right setting where it's pitch black, you're really immersing yourself into this and paying attention to the backgrounds of all of the shots and things like that. Although it doesn't scare me as much, it scares a lot of people. So if you're looking for one like Gonjiam that is gonna traumatize you or at least terrify you, then definitely check out Lake Mungo. Next we have Noroi the Curse. I think that's how you would say that. This is the oldest movie on this list of 2005, so early 2000s. A prominent paranormal journalist goes missing shortly after completing a documentary. What begins as an investigation into strange noises soon evolves into the chilling mystery of a demonic entity named Kakutaba. Now this one is a little bit slower of a burn. I think that's why it wasn't my favorite found footage movie, but the visuals that you get in this are genuinely terrifying. There's some moments in this that are very haunting. Now, a lot of it is just this journalist investigating, so it's one of those found footage movies that has a lot of buildup and a, you know, kind of slow burn throughout the beginning and middle of it. But I think the payoff is worth it in the end, and a lot of people love this movie, so I knew I had to include it. It is iconic and early 2000s, and it is effective. It just takes a while to get there. Next up, we have Devil's Pass. This is another one that I've talked about multiple times on the channel. To determine what happened to some Russian hikers, 5 US college students go back to where the hikers were found dead. The students don't return from the expedition either, and the recovered footage is deemed too disturbing for public viewing. This one is kind of like if Blair Witch took place on the side of a snowy mountain. It's very much reminiscent of that. Camping, not in the woods, but on a snowy mountain. So, however, it doesn't just end there. I think there's so much more going on to this movie, and it does take unexpected turns and ends up being very creepy in the end. So definitely check out Devil's Pass. Next we have Phoenix Forgotten. This is the only alien found footage on this list, and honestly I think it's kind of an underrated subgenre of alien found footage. Like, it's so easy to do that and you can make it so horrifying. I know there's some other movies out there and I'll talk about some of them at the end, and also like in VHS there's an alien short in there, but we just need more movies like Phoenix Forgotten. On March 13th, 1997, several mysterious lights appeared over Phoenix. 3 teens went into the desert shortly after the incident, hoping to document the strange events occurring in their town. They disappeared that night and were never seen again. Now this one isn't the best executed, but I'll take scraps when it comes to alien found footage because I love that concept, and this one I think executes it so well. It is so horrifying, but a little bit more on the subtle side again. Like, you don't see a ton, which I really like the reservation that a lot of found footage movie has with that. I'm just obsessed with the setting and the overall concept of Phoenix Forgotten. Okay, so the last 2 on this list are 2 of now my favorite found footage horror movies and some of the best on this list. I'm gonna say that I saved the best for last. First up, we have Final Prayer / The Borderlands. I've seen it called different things. I think it's called different titles in different countries. After reports of strange phenomena in rural English church, a team is sent by the Vatican to see what is happening qualifies as a miracle. At first skeptical and mistrusted by the locals, they soon learn that they may have found something far darker and is more potent than they could possibly have imagined. Now this one, it is like your typical standard, you know, miracle religious found footage type movie. I don't want to say exorcism or anything like that because there's no exorcism, but kind of that religious horror of, you know, the Vatican sending these people to investigate to see if there is indeed a miracle. Up until the end, let me tell you, this is going to be the most surprising on this list. I was blown away by the ending of this movie. It was so shocking what it ended up being. I had to actually look it up and like see an explanation of what was going on. It definitely has slower parts throughout. It kind of is your typical found footage movie through most of this, although a lot of it is set in cameras that are like, you know, in corners of rooms. So if it's something that you don't like because of the nausea, you know, shaky camera, things like that, this doesn't have a lot of that. And the scares start out pretty standard, but it turns into something completely different, and the final scenes of this are horrifying. Next up, we have one of my new favorite found footage movies of all time, Butterfly Kisses. And this one's free everywhere. So, a filmmaker discovers a box of videotapes depicting a disturbing student film project about an urban legend known as Peeping Tom. As he sets out to prove the footage is real, he becomes obsessed along with the film crew following him. Again, mockumentary style. This one feels the most realistic out of everyone on this list. And the beginning and like the setup kind of reminds me of Slender Man or The Empty Man, you know, that kind of folklore, urban legend type story. So if you like The Empty Man, just picture The Empty Man but like found footage and mockumentary style. Now this has really great commentary on found footage as a genre as a whole, and also like low budget type movies. And the director of the Blair Witch Project, Ed Sanchez, makes an appearance in this. He's one of the people who are interviewed for the mockumentary style, which makes it feel that much more real because he's actually in it. I was so shocked when he came up on the screen. It was such a fun thing to see, and to see as like commentary on found footage. I just think that this movie is very meta when it comes to the found footage concept. And this actually has the least shaky camera trope that most found footage movies have. So I feel like even if you're not a fan of that type of thing, usually in these kinds of movies, this one will not bother you. And very little camera effects, very little like any editing going on or like cuts or anything like that. It is just very, very well done. And dare I say, a little Ring vibes in there. Anyway, so there you have 15 found footage movies that you should watch right now. Here are some other ones that were recommended to me that I put on my list of that I still need to watch. So if you need even more, here's 5 more. So you have 20 options for found footage movies. Hopefully you haven't seen at least a couple of these. Let me know which ones you have seen and what you think of them, and which ones you're gonna check out because you haven't seen them yet. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.